To obtain greater goods, we often have to incur and endure greater costs. This is the introduction for the article of the Swiss neuroscientists that propose to categorize the many mechanisms that we and our brains use to endure certain costs until an end reward. The scientists start saying how to direct ourselves towards our goals. We normally try to implement the best courses of actions, relying on our decision-making abilities. Using these, we often prefer to balance between the best costs that we perceive that we can afford to the best benefits that we can take with them. Although many times, following the paths with the least possible costs can often lead us to smaller benefits as well, in comparison to other paths. With this theory, they propose 3 different neuroscientific ways to accept costs and the capacity to endure it in order to get greater rewards in our lives as well. But before doing that, they try to explain 4 different brain regions that are normally correlated in decision making. First, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, or VMPFC, which is normally associated with the objective brain, not caring much with the values of the rewards. If the costs are high, whatever. If the rewards are high, he doesn't care as well. All he does is try to compute or identify the costs and rewards as neutral tools, let's say. So he just tried to analyze them, so other brain regions could process and infer the values of whether following them is a good decision or not. He just states the facts in this sense. Second, there is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, or DLPFC, that just reduces the immediacy, making us stop and ponder more before acting upon these analyses. After all, we do have patterns to respond to certain external or even internal stimuli we receive. It's a region about focus and resistance. You can imagine like Steve Jobs saying that focus isn't about just saying yes, but rather it is about saying no as well. And this is what the DLPFC does. He says no. Third, when it comes to removing the lower costs and benefits alternatives and focusing more on higher benefits instead, we encounter the frontal pole, or FPC. And when it comes to seeing things more in the future or just in a superior distance perspective, we encounter the temporal parietal junction, or TPJ. And with this stated, we can actually go to the 3 mechanisms to increase resistance in long-term decision making. Number 1, adding more options. Impulsivity is normally related to the motor domain of the brain due to this inhibition of that part. That is, if you see something that seems to be a reward, not only a distraction like a video game, food, and so on, but even like the first option you see in front of you, like a very beautiful or handsome partner in potential, or the first buying option, and so on. If you see something that you can get a reward, impulsivity will just tell you to go without caring for the alternatives. It normally happens when the immediate smaller rewards are preferred over waiting for a larger later reward. So controlling or reducing reward-related impulsivity would also reduce the tendencies to select the short-term options or benefits and promote patience for the larger ones in the future. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, as we have seen before, can therefore use its top-down networks to modulate neurosignals to enhance representations of delayed relative to immediate reward. What does this mean? If the DLPFC is not really telling us the costs and the benefits of things, what would happen if you just started opening yourself up to see not only the greater costs, but also even greater rewards as well? Instead of taking only the first thing that comes in your field of vision at hand, taking some time to just look or have some more knowledge of other rewards or even costs can actually guarantee you more options that you could be willing to pay or to pursue. For example, if you are considering purchasing a new car, a book, or a video game, you may initially be drawn to a specific model due to its attractive appearance and features. However, If you use this impulsivity to search for other options, you may discover that a different product can offer you better things that the first one wouldn't give you, like better fuel efficiency, lower maintenance costs, more interesting stories or better gameplay and community overall, and so on. Therefore, by considering a wider range of options, you can make a more informed decision and potentially save money or just get a greater benefits in the long run, just because you've considered more options. Number 2. Distancing and imagination. This is a very scientific, tried and tested method to increase the cost endurance for decision makers. By projecting themselves mentally into the future, into a more remote spatial location, or into the mind of somebody else even, decision makers appear to be less exposed to the current emotions and better able to overcome the costs. The ability to imagine future events includes the ability to imagine rewards more generally as well, which is associated with the increased willingness to endure delay costs. The prefrontal cortex is generally known for being activated and to turn off or at least not care for the inferior parts of the brain, such as the emotional and sensorial motor regions, when it is focused, like during meditation, mentalization, or distancing activities. That is, looking forward to the future can sometimes make you not care or even ignore the present and the present results you are having right now. The temporoparietal junction is another brain region responsible for that, because when disrupting this region with magnetic stimulation, people also reduce their willingness to wait and be more generous, which makes us and the authors of the article discern about how much caring for other people is actually a very good method of looking for the future as well, and therefore to endure the costs for greater rewards. Something very similar that Jordan Peterson tends to say when he states that caring for other people is also caring for the future, as you can watch later in the video I made about him. Therefore, we can add these to the tip number 3, helping others. Doing this can actually promote 3 different things, beyond turning on those areas related to distancing. In a similar and correlated way, sharing or giving things to others, being more empathetic, altruistic, and so on, also activate the areas related to the theory of mind, which is the ability to infer and to understand other people's mental states to predict their behaviors. And with these, start using parts of your brain that are related to the future because of that, predicting other person's reactions, your own self, and so on. Plus, it can also promote oxytocin, the hormone of affiliation, which reduces cortisol, the hormone of stress, making you caring less to the detriments that can happen to you, that is, the costs. After all, if you give something to another person, you can actually give a part of yourself in the evolutionary psychology view. So even if you lose, you will gain something because you give a part of yourself to another person. And with this, you're kind of infected or lived in her because of that. But here is the thing. Women, more than men, tend to experience these more often. So if you're a man, you may need to force yourself more or to get more motivation before being able to do this. But this is a story for another video. For now, we can even add an extra tip, which is predetermination. This is an ability related to the FBC, which is very useful when it comes to deal with the surface of many different alternatives that we can perceive. Even though the first tip was about expanding your field of choices, this is about setting previously what benefits or costs you would like to take. And even when alternatives are presented to you, you will not falter. Because it relies on the premise that one of the things that makes us fail, give up, or to stop seeking the things we want is exactly that different alternatives can appear to us, therefore leading us to forget that which we have chosen beforehand. But when you decide upon previously, say that you will not falter, this can actually help you to reduce the opening of new possibilities and keep striving towards the end result you previously wanted. The Japanese book Hagakure talks about exactly this. Delving on the philosophy of the samurai, it says how much previous decisions can help us to not only ignore the negative things that can appear in front of us, like an obstacle or our own thoughts, but also how this determination of the mind can be decisive when the opportunity to take what we want appears in front of us. I've also covered this book here on the channel if you want to take a look. Finally, this article actually gives way more information than these I've presented here, but I've also added some new information that are not present on it. So if you want to take a look and discover many other correlations the brain does to calculate effort, risks, costs, rewards, and so on, you can actually check the references below. If you are interested in a more direct approach or even subjective analysis of how you can better deal with long-term decision making, you can also check the description for a link in which you can book a session with me so we can look more into that. For now, you can like, subscribe, write a comment on how you yourself deal with long-term decision making, and see you next time. Goodbye.